Alright, so one of the biggest franchises of all times is the God of War series, and today we're going to break down the top 5 God of War games before the new God of War comes out, which, let's be honest, probably be number 1 because it looks so amazing. But till then, we're going to break down the top 5, and since there's only 6 other God of War games, one of them's not going to be on here, but the other 5 will. It doesn't mean that they're all equally quality, so I'm going to break it down from 5 all the way to 1, from the least, or not the best, to the best. So let's get going. That was self-explanatory. I just said it for no reason. Oh well. Starting off this list is God of War Ascension. This is probably the weakest, or one of the weaker titles in the franchise. Since there was only 6, obviously, being number 5, there's only one other that I thought was weaker. While it boasted wonderful graphics and some really cool epic moments, it really did fall short on a lot of things. Like the gameplay length, the story was terrible. It really gave nothing more to the mythos that God of War and the first 3 built. It just kind of felt like, here, take it. It's what we have. Here's the scraps to the other 3 games. So, while in my review I actually recommend skipping it, it's not the horrible title. It's just very, very meh in every sense of the word. So, fans who have gotten to this point might enjoy it, but it's hard to see this even near the top 3. So, we're going to put this at number 5. Coming at number 4 is God of War Ghost of Sparta. I played this one on the PSP and it actually surprised me quite a bit. It has a very harrowing story of your brother and you and the fight that you're going through and the emotions. You actually feel for the characters, which is really surprising. There's also some really amazing set pieces, especially playing this on a PSP. It blew me away. I was like, I didn't know this can do that. And sure, some of the gameplay kind of felt like God of War 2 light, and there's some nice additions to the gameplay, but really you're going to beat it in 4 hours, maybe 5, but it's still worth checking out. It's short, but it adds some backstory to Kratos, and that's always a plus.
Now there is no hope.
And Kratos cast himself from the highest mountain in all of Greece.
God of War 1, this is probably helmed as the best in the story department overall in the series. You really get to know Kratos and why he's on this vengeful journey and why he's upset. And I really did love that some of the areas you visit are so different than the rest of the series. You actually go to hell, which you do in 3 as well, but it was really cool in this game. And it's just kind of like a really pretty sweet adventure, and it made the action gameplay, you feel like this powerful god being, and it was really nothing like it before that. So it did a lot to start the genre. Now sure, some of it feels outdated now, but I think it's still worthy enough to be in the top 3, and it's going to be my 3rd one for the series.
Zeus! Your son has returned. I bring the destruction of Olympus!
God of War 3 comes in at number 2. While I was a tad disappointed when you watched my review of this game overall, it still contains some of the most epic scenes in gaming history. I mean, some of truly the most epic scenes. The opening is phenomenal and throws you right into the action. You can't even breathe. It's just so crazy. And the game also has some of the most violent and fucked up combat I've ever seen in action video games. And you can't forget the closing chapter. This is the end of the trilogy, so you actually get to face Zeus, who you've hated from 1 and 2. You get to beat his ass, so that's awesome. This game does have length issues, and it's a little too long at parts and drawn out, but overall God of War 3 is still epic and definitely worthy of the number 2 spot. But we're going to hit number 1 with God of War 2. I think if God of War 3 went for scale, God of War 2 went for brutal, downright fucked up, violent revenge thriller. I mean, this game from the very first 5 minutes all the way to the end, you just felt like a fucking god killer. It was so awesome. It's a bit slower paced than 1 and 3, I think, in some parts, but once you get to the bosses, they're some of the best of the entire series. I thought the gameplay, the combat, actually improved pretty big from the first one and made it flow so much smoother. It's actually, I think, my favorite one in terms of length, because there's some slower parts, but overall, I was never bored. Kratos' middle adventure in the trilogy is just this pure hatred of all these gods who have messed with his life, and you feel when you're running through this game like the god of like war, well, the God of War that's fucking murdering the gods, and it's just so great. God of War 2 really made me a fan of this series and remains one of the best action games of all time. So that's my list. I mean, I assume most people are going to have a list very similar to me. I feel like the top 3 are going to be interchangeable from God of War 1, 2, and 3. Those are going to mostly be the top games of God of War. Let's be honest here. Unless you played Ascension before those, I can't imagine you saying that otherwise. Either way, though, if it is way different, I want to see you list it below. You might have Chains of Olympus on here. I thought that was the weakest title in the franchise so far, but still, overall, these are my top 5 God of War games. The new one's coming out soon. That's probably going to be the best of it all, or at least as good as God of War 2, so I can't wait. But I would love to see yours listed below. Everybody else, have a wonderful day.
Zeus should have kept you where you belong. No matter how many gods fall, there will always be another to stand against you.
They will fall as well.
The death of Olympus means the death of us all.
Then prepare for your death, Poseidon.